Gus, good afternoon. I'm Jonathan Herbst, founder and CEO of Scale Up Growth Partners. Welcome to our story. Welcome to our Stories of Scaling Up series, where I chat with owners, managing directors, founders, and business leaders of scaling companies. It centres around their entrepreneurial journey so far and their aspirations for their companies. So today I'm talking to Gus Gilkyson. Is that the right pronunciation?
Yep, you got it. Yep.
He's CEO and founder at Grow Capital. Welcome.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for having me on.
Looking forward to the chat. So, Gus, can you position us? What does Grow Capital do? What do you do, and how long have you been doing it?
Yeah, certainly. So Grow Capital are in the business finance space. So what we do is help generally unlisted family-owned businesses to source funding from a panel of more than 90 different funders. So, and generally that's for growth. So, typical business for us is in that sort of high growth phase. Okay.
And so let's explore that a bit more. Family owned, who would your core customer be?
So a typical client for us is generally in that 35 to sort of mid 50s age bracket. So in that accumulation phase, typically have more than one business. So, extremely busy. Quite often those businesses are in different industries. So, very often a very entrepreneurial type client and doing lots of things, really busy, and just from a capacity perspective, they're constrained. And so we fill that gap in terms of the financing expertise. So,
So you're financing for business needs, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. But so any worthwhile business purpose is generally what we fund. We also do the personal investment loans for directors of those companies, but that's, I guess, more of a secondary focus for our business.
And is there a particular size of business that you focus on?
Generally in that 1 to 5 million turnover is where we focus. But that's we've done loans north of 50 million, and then as little as 15,000. So it just depends on who they are. We've actually, one of our clients started with a $23,000 lease for a car, and the last transaction that we were running for them was 25 million. So we try to have a life cycle with our clients. Yeah.
So that means you've been running Grow Capital for how long?
So Grow's been around since 2013, and I've been in the industry in that corporate commercial space for the last 23 years.
And your client base are based all over Australia?
All over Australia, yeah. So, yep. So,
this is an interesting question because Gus and I spoke before how we worked out we live around the corner from each other in Bowral in Southern Highlands of New South Wales. But we've all been through the pandemic. What are some of the things you put in place during the pandemic that you've kept doing?
Yeah, good question. So we were quite lucky. We were based in the city, in the CBD, our head office, for many years, and about 4 years ago, a bit over 4 years ago, we took the business online because all of the team were always out on the road or sitting there working through numbers. So we took the business online, and purely out of, chance, we ended up, COVID came along and everyone had to go online. So it wasn't a lot of change for us. But one thing we did realise is that from a cultural perspective, business can suffer being online. So what's really important for us, and one thing we put in place, is getting the team together regularly to do something completely outside of work. So we were talking about sailing before, and so our last work event a couple of months ago, we took the team out sailing with East Sail, and we spent an afternoon of just having a bit of fun, a bit of time out, and a bit of decompression. Things have been pretty stressful over the last couple of years, and then went and had some Japanese for dinner, and that's one thing that, and we're just planning the next one now, which is at the end of October. So.
Great. Yeah. Well, if I can give a plug to another someone I interviewed earlier in the week, Futuricity, he runs a business called Float Space, FLOAT Space, Float Space.
Yep.
And he specialises in putting, arranging crewed boat charters all over Australia and now in the US. So worth having a look at.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great business.
So what's the future look like for you, and what do you see as your main challenges going forward?
Yeah, look, I think from a future perspective, our goal is to be a more community-focused finance and coaching organisation. So, ideally, we want to scale internationally, but there's a few things we're ironing out at the moment in terms of getting that right. So, some of the challenges are obviously, multi-jurisdictional in terms of location, but I think also, getting it. As with any business, we want to make sure that we best serve our client, and so that changes all the time. And there's a lot of noise in our marketplace. So, from our perspective, I guess we don't want to serve every single client. We want to serve the clients that are most appropriate, and we want to be the best of breed, I guess, in that space.
Right. Yeah, actually, we should have a chat about that. I'm a non-executive director of a superannuation fund here, but it's part of a financial services company, a global financial services company, which I'm the global coach to. And we have jurisdictions in the UK, Gibraltar, the UAE, Philippines, Australia, and New Zealand, and it's probably one of the reasons I'm up here.
Yeah,
just different trustee structures, different regulators. It's
a lot of fun.
A lot of fun's not the word I probably would have used. Yeah. So you've been grow. I think you said 2013 you kicked it off. What do you think has been your business, the biggest learning you've had as a business owner since then?
The biggest learning is probably that people are everything. A business without people is just chairs and desks. Much like a house without people, or. So I think looking after your people is critical, and it's easier said than done. We were very proud that over the COVID period we actually increased the size of our team. We didn't decrease it. So a lot of people were letting go. Tens or hundreds of staff in our industry and offshoring it. We kept all our staff, and we actually hired people as well. So we're really, really proud of that. And so people are really important to us. And so, we're coming back to what we were talking about earlier, just around looking after our people is one of the biggest lessons I've learned. And sometimes that costs you money to do that, but it's worthwhile.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. When you think of the word successful, who pops to mind first and why?
Oh, Jesus. I couldn't go past someone like Dylan Alcott. Australian of the Year. Jewel, I love sports. Paralympian in wheelchair basketball, tennis, singles, doubles. He's a radio host, a motivational speaker. He's got his personal life in shit. Like, he's just ticks a lot of boxes, and I think for me. And he speaks out about developing opportunities for those who are less fortunate, and I guess from my perspective that's a really big thing, coming from that adversity and just shooting the lights out like that. That's huge. So someone like Dylan would come to mind. I mean, I love Gary Vee. Is huge, really, really focused on using his business experience to do good in this world, and so I'm a big fan of his as well.
Yeah, that's my favourite question, because a lot of the questions run the same theme. People, perseverance and the like, but the successful one is we're getting really different answers for that one, and some another very insightful answer. So thank you.
Yep.
Are you a reader? Any books, podcasts you'd recommend?
Absolutely, yeah. Geez, how many would you like? So probably by category. Look, business-wise, I love Jay Abraham. I don't know if you've read any of her. So Ultimate Entrepreneur, that's a really good podcast. It's an absolute cracker. If you like biographies, Pushing the Limits, Casey Stoner, I love that. I'm a mad motorcyclist, so
And from memory, you were a bike rider, because I've just worked out where.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, so I ride push bikes as well. David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me. If you haven't read that, that's a must read.
Which one's on?
Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. If you're into pushing your limits, he's one of the masters. He will blow your hair back in terms of if you watch any of his media. He's great. Ben Greenfield, Boundless, is from a longevity and health perspective phenomenal. Just the science behind what he talks about and the depth of study is huge. And I think from an environmental perspective, anything by I'm permaculture mad, so anything by Bill Mollison or David Holmgren or Jeff Lawton is fantastic as well.
You've just filled up the next 6 months with reading for me. Thank you. Okay, last question. Any last piece of advice or parting words for a CEO or an aspiring CEO out there?
Be kind to people would be the primary one. You just never know when you're going to run into someone again. I've come across people that I had in my teams when I was back in corporate days, and they are now significantly more successful and experienced than me. And I'm just glad that I was kind to them back then. And no matter how busy you are and no matter what your thoughts are around that, make heaps of mistakes. That's a good one. You won't learn without mistakes. And I think what I often get is, if something's really hard, I always think that there's probably someone in this world who has solved that problem before, and so it's really important to just look for that person or those people and learn from them. Save yourself some effort and some time.
That's a great piece of advice. And I'll throw a book back at you. Who Not How by Dan Sullivan.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you.
So Dan Sullivan is my coach out of the States. Yep. So live what I.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
The Who Not How. I think the concept probably came from Jim Collins, which most of these things do.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
But it's a very simple concept. Look for the who. You think about the how or the what or anything else.
Yep.
And some of the examples he gives in there, like an example of a US scrap metal business that had a huge business in China, and when Trump came in, it was all falling apart. And how he went about opening within 6 months in India, and it was all about finding those smart people, those who's, to help him make that, to make the decision and make it happen. Yeah. So, Who Not How by Dan Sullivan is a good one.
Thank you. I'll get it. Appreciate it.
Gus, that was fabulous. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thanks, Jonathan.
And
me too. It's lovely to take the time and to talk.
Yeah, and some great learnings there. Thank you.
Yep. And I think also, I don't know if it's relevant to you or not, Jonathan, we're about to launch a book in the not-too-distant future called Funding Business Growth.
Yep.
So very happy to offer any of your listeners or readers a free copy if that's something they'd be interested in as well.
Fabulous. So listen, we'll add that to the first time I said this. We'll add that to the show notes. I'd love to share that around. Thank you, and I'd love a copy of it myself, please.
Absolutely. Yep. No, without question.
Great. Thanks so much, Gus.
Thanks, Jonathan. Appreciate it. Talk soon.
Yes.